Welcome to the Limitless Ladies Network podcast, where we are limitless in sharing lessons to advocate and drive insightful, empathetic self-care. The Limitless Ladies Network is dedicated to nourishing minds, educating on self-care, and facilitating transformative experiences. Our mission is to guide women to age with grace, cultivate good health, and build meaningful connections to bring happiness into their lives. We strive to empower the ladies of the community so they may successfully advocate for themselves and embrace a journey of holistic well-being. Please note that the information and opinions shared on this podcast are for educational purposes only and are not intended in any way to be used as medical advice. Please seek a medical professional for any health-related matters, and always refer to our full disclosure in our show notes. Hello, and welcome to today's episode. I'm your host, Tammy Dungan, and today I am so pleased to have with me Donna Fedus, who is the founder of Borrow My Glasses. She started it in 2013. With a major passion for helping people through longevity. She earned her master's degree in gerontology from the University of Pennsylvania in 1991. And as a gerontologist educator, she has worked in hospitals, universities, colleges, client organizations, and with individuals for more than 35 years. So Donna brings her passion for specifically dementia care. She seems to be a specialist there, and caregiving issues with curriculum design, building coalitions and new programs with strategies to help you work through this whole piece as a gerontology educator every day. So thank you, Donna, for being here.
Thanks for having me, Tammy. Very happy to be with you.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into gerontology.
So I come from a big family where older adults were kind of the center of everything. You know, in some families, older adults are marginalized or on the edges. And in our family, the older people were central, always had the best stories, the best joke tellers, the kind of the most interesting lives. And so that's how I grew up. I didn't realize until 2 years after I graduated from college that I could work with older people without being a clinician, so without being a doctor or a nurse. And I knew that wasn't for me. But once I realized that, it was sort of like a light bulb went off, and I said, oh, this is my career. I can work with older people in community programs and research and universities and all these other places. So it really changed my life. I quit my job in New York. I took the GREs and I applied for grad school and moved to Philadelphia. So it was a very big turning point for me once I knew this was my career. It was in my early 20s. I was pretty happy to find it at that time.
Yes, because not all of us truly know what our passion is and can figure that out at such a young age. So good for you on being able to identify that. And I love that you're helping to educate people and really kind of nurture our elders, because I feel as though through generations, we've kind of lost the respect almost for our older community.
Yeah, that is so true. And I think that people may recognize anecdotally that people are living longer. I mean, when we were growing up, how many like 90 and 95th birthday parties were we going to? Probably not that many.
No.
It's really more common now. So in the last roughly century, we've gained about 30 years in the average lifespan. And so people are living longer than ever before in human history. And it's impacting every part of life in terms of our own aging, our family life, the need for family caregivers to step up without a lot of guidelines, organizationally, programs, products, services, healthcare. There's all kinds of changes that are stemming from this longevity trend.
Absolutely. And that is quite the extension of 30 years. And I think a lot of us, I mean, me particularly, like I'm most concerned with quality of life as we move forward, because a lot of us have become sedentary. We're not out, we're just not outside in nature like we used to be. And we're not out farming and, lifting up heavy buckets and just doing all the things that we used to do even just those 30 years ago ourselves. So you really focus a lot on dementia, which is kind of a really big thing, I think, as we talk about quality of life and getting older.
Yeah, no, that's true. So I've been a gerontologist for more than 35 years now and a dementia educator for almost 20 years. So it's an area of expertise for me. I developed a college course at Quinnipiac University called Dementia Fundamentals, full semester all about dementia for undergrads there. And something that I teach a lot about to healthcare professionals, social service professionals, and family members as well. It's kind of a passion area of mine, and unfortunately, it's something that also is coming up in prevalence. Many more families will be impacted by dementia in some way in the course of their life. So it's something we need to know more about. And it's not always intuitive how you would think about responding to something that a person with dementia says might not necessarily be the most helpful. You don't always need to correct them factually, even if they say something that's not actually true. But people don't necessarily have the skills to be able to respond in the best way for the individual living with cognitive impairment. So
Right,
that's
because I think we as the person that's tending to them, especially when we're talking dementia and Alzheimer's, right? It can be such a repetitive wearing down almost for us to just kind of have that repetitive question being asked, or you always providing that same answer. So kind of give us a little bit of perspective, I guess, from the other side, and how we should really care for our elders to make them feel respected and loved.
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I get this question routinely from even people working in the field because so few have been trained enough or properly or at all in dementia care. So the way that I think about it is if somebody knew they were asking you the same question, they wouldn't be asking. And so you just need to answer it again. I can show in my workshops, I would show kind of what might be going on in the brain if the person has dementia symptoms because they have Alzheimer's disease or Lewy body dementia or vascular dementia or frontotemporal dementia, whatever is causing those symptoms is going to be corresponding to changes in their brain. So can be stemming from actually different things internally. But regardless, very often a symptom we'll see in someone who's dealing with dementia from any cause is short-term memory loss, right? And they repeat things very often, as you were just saying. And so they can't help that. And so we just need to respond again. And maybe we need a pivot out to something else if you're kind of stuck in a loop and it's getting frustrating for you as the caregiver, which they will likely pick up on because they're very good at reading emotions,
Mhm.
even if they're not getting the facts right. So there's a lot of ways to respond and choices there, but I think in general, you do just need to answer the question again or address the emotional need that's underlying the question.
Mhm.
There's lots we can teach about that, but it's something to think about as your question indicated. How do I respond? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and for us, I've also heard that even for the caregiver, that there's almost like caregiver dementia or Alzheimer's, where I can just imagine that I keep repeating myself to this person that I love. So you almost feel like you'd forget yourself. So, what are like some of the things that you would suggest that caregivers do to be able to help themselves in a cognitive way so they don't kind of slip into that same type scenario?
Yeah. Caregiver stress is real. It is hard to stay in that zone of just always being patient and not getting frustrated when you're like, oh my goodness, it's again, they're asking the same thing. And honestly, even if you answered it sort of perfectly, because of the changes going on in their brain and their disease, they are likely to ask you again. So just kind of setting your own expectations and managing your own expectations as a caregiver can help. Training and learning skilled responses can really, really help because that gives you more choices and options in terms of how to respond. So you're not just cycling the loop again and again. So question, answer, question, answer, question, answer is rough for everybody, mostly the caregiver.
Mhm.
So trying to figure out how to get yourself out of that loop and having a couple of different skilled responses, in terms of I think I mentioned before, speaking to the emotion. And so if someone is saying, what time is it? What time is it? What time is it? That kind of looping question.
Mm.
It could be because they're just bored, and they don't know what's coming next in their day. I mean, when I ask what time it is, often I want to know how much time do I have to prepare for the next thing I have to do? Where do I need to be next? And we all kind of use that structure to get through our day. But when you can't orient yourself, rely on your person who's there to help you do that. Maybe they're telling you that their need is more structure. Maybe they feel useless and they want to feel needed. So if you're answering the emotional need from what time is it, what time is it, what time is it, you might not want to answer factually. You might want to say, it's time for us to make lunch. I need your help with that. Let me get the supplies. It's time to go outside for a walk. It's time to stretch. It's time to conduct the orchestra. Let's turn on some music. They may be indicating that they're bored or need to feel useful in that moment. So that gives a caregiver more creative ways to respond to that kind of looping question. So I would say set your mindset that this is going to happen in cognitive illness. Learn what you can do to respond. Self-care is a big part of it for caregivers. I know you do a lot of self-care in your work.
As women, most of us are caregivers, right? I mean, the majority of us are the ones that have been tending to the family, to the little ones. And then when it comes time to your parents, typically it kind of falls on the wife or the mom or the daughter to kind of step into that role now as mom and even to your own mom
Mhm.
and, take care of some of those things. And it is tough as a caregiver, right, to be able to set that time aside for yourself and it's not selfish. And my job is really to remind women that it is not selfish. We need to take that time for ourselves so that if we are constantly in that stress mode ourselves, trying to tend to those others, your children, your parents, your work, anything, your animals, that it can wear down on you. So you cannot pour from an empty cup, as we always say. So a couple of minutes here and there to just get outside in nature. Similar things that you're trying to suggest to the patient, right, could actually help, I think, the caregiver to be able to, let's dance and do some movement and basically raise your energy and your vibration to a more positive mindset and kind of do that shift off of just this current state of where we are, right?
Yeah. I love that. And I feel like what you're saying makes so much sense, right? Regardless of the type of care you're giving. If it's to, I work with a lot with caregivers of older adults or people living with disability, but right, caregivers of kids, caregivers in general kind of need to be aware of their own needs as well. I could not agree more that it is not selfish. It's really strengthening yourself in whatever ways you have to be able to provide for those other individuals in your life that rely on you. And, it's very, very important. So, however, people do their own self-care and they practice that in their life. And it may be, talking to a consultant to help tweak something in their life in
Mm,
terms of their own health care so that they're strong physically, cognitively, spiritually. Those are really wonderful ways to practice self-care. It could be mindfulness, it could be stepping away, it could be breathing exercises that you can do to
right.
recalibrate in the moment if you can't step away. It could be music related. Music's kind of magic for people with dementia. It's a great technique to use in caregiving, but also it helps the caregiver as well. There's really nothing to me that changes the mood in a room faster than changing the music and
I
breathing exercises. Those are sort of the two.
I agree. Music is just so magical that I would imagine for those that are suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, it might actually be like a mini vacation for them if they hear, because so many times music can just instantly bring you back to that happy moment that you were with your family or with your loved one on vacation or some experience of a wedding or something, right? And you can kind of bring back those good memories, right?
Yeah. For music, when you're using it with people with dementia, the key there is to make sure it's person-centered music.
Hmm.
So you're not putting on necessarily the music that you love yourself as a caregiver. I mean, you can, and sneak that in there, but really you want to think about the individual living with dementia in that case and say, what is their music? So
Right.
there's a story from a woman who attended a workshop that I was giving, and she was there as a professional. She was a caregiver, that's her job. But she also had her dad living with her who had Alzheimer's, and she had her own children there. They were teenagers. And she noticed that when her kids would come home after school and turn on their music, which they liked rap, that was their favorite music, and her dad would start to get like more agitated, and it was not a positive for him. And she kind of figured out, wait a minute, this is a pattern. I'm recognizing this keeps happening. And so she tried to, change it up a little bit and see what happened. So she told her kids, you need to turn that way down or turn it off or listen in your rooms, that kind of thing, or, in earbuds. And for her dad, she turned on Nat King Cole was the artist that he happened to love. And she said it really shifted everything where he was tapping his toe and he was getting into that. And she could see he was very taken with the music and it was really having a great impact on him. And she just was telling this as a story. And I said, that is a very skilled response when it comes to dementia care. So it's how do you use music in person-centered ways, person-centered music, whatever time of day that person needs a boost. Maybe it's more peppy music if they're falling asleep on the couch, more quiet, calm down music if, you're into the evening and you want them to settle a little bit, calming music, music from their childhood when you want to reminisce about something, or don't play certain music if you want to avoid certain time periods in their life. So there's a lot of strategy actually behind using music in care, but it's a great strategy to use.
Yeah, I really love that.
Hmm.
So, as many caregivers, especially for those again with Alzheimer's dementia, as we talked about, it's kind of hard on them and it pulls on their heartstrings too because they're seeing their loved one decline in front of their eyes, right?
Yep.
Physically, psychologically, there's all these changes happening, and you mentioned there's just so many different kinds. So, what type of, I know we talked about music and some other things, kind of more for the patient, it seems, but what about the actual caregiver for like mental exhaustion? So, how can they, what tips do you have for those people that are doing caregiving so that they don't physically get exhausted?
Yeah, such a great question. And I do a lot with caregiving as well. I created a college class on caregiving as well. I teach, that's a big part of what I focus on, caregiving. Um, I feel like there's lots and lots of strategies. Self-care is actually a part of that, attending to your own needs in some way. Another part is to recognize grieving, actually. And
Mm,
there's all different types of grief that people experience. So, of course, when someone actually dies, that's one kind of grief. But there's anticipatory grief as you're
right,
seeing someone decline and you're anticipating, oh, I know this is a degenerative disease. I know that this is going to get worse, most likely, right? Depending on
right,
whatever else is wrong with them. And there's grief in that. There's grieving who the person was, then they're no longer able to do certain things, or they may not remember your name. That can be a really rough situation for caregivers. But when you learn about dementia caregiving and learn sort of how the brain works, that basically you're going to be losing function in the opposite order to how you gained it. So if you think about a baby being born and sort of the order in which they learn to take care of themselves, and do all the things that they're doing. We often lose it in the reverse order when someone has Alzheimer's anyway. So that helps to make it a little bit more predictable. You can know that even though they might not be able to verbalize and speak and engage in conversation and share certain memories with you, especially in the short term, that if you go back to long-term memory, that's often a place that you can connect with them still.
mm.
a different part of our brain handles music than the part that handles speech. So you can try music in that way to just find an area of capacity in their brain, and that will help the caregiver. So I think a lot of these skills help you with your grieving as a caregiver. So learning is another way to handle your own needs and figure out where you can still be with the person. And then just respite, caregivers stepping away from the care and making alternate plans is wonderful. Doing something for yourself, making sure your person is covered, maybe by another family member, a service, a home or community-based program, or maybe even if they need to move into another setting. You're never going to stop being a caregiver. But you can kind of rebalance a little bit as you need. So sometimes that respite care and just knowing I have an hour to do something that I need to do for me or I want to do for me is something that caregivers can benefit from.
Absolutely. And again, that's not a selfish thing.
Oh,
That
no.
is something that is self-care in such a deep way for yourself to be able to continue giving to that loved one in the best capacity so that there isn't that tension and that grief, you know. I
Yeah,
love that
sometimes
idea.
I talk about caregiving like a marathon, and it helps people to think about it. So I am not a marathon runner. I don't know if you are,
I
but
am not a runner.
yeah,
Nope.
but I can understand it this way that if you're running in a marathon and there's people at the side of the course that give little cups of water.
Right.
And if you're like, nope, I don't need it, and you keep running, and someone else tries to hand you a little sip of water and say, nope, I don't need it, and you keep running, and you keep, saying, no, 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 I got it, I can handle it, I don't need anything. I think you're not as likely to finish the race or finish in as strong of a shape yourself as if, and if you take little bits of water along the way, if you accept support from other people, if you find supports that you need, whatever you need in your caregiving situation, you'll be able to finish that marathon in a stronger way than if you keep refusing help all along the way. So sometimes I use that visual to help people say, it's just a little sip of water. It's okay to accept that. It's going to help you to be stronger and to last longer. So,
Absolutely. That is a fantastic analogy. That really is. I love that.
mm,
That's
yeah,
great.
people do need permission, though. I know you're aware of this too. Caregivers really need permission. It's important for them to do these things. It's certainly not selfish.
Yeah, and I like the idea of just like little sips of water, right? And to your point, it could just be that you need a half an hour to go outside, or you're going to be the one to run to the store to get some groceries instead of the person that normally does it, just so that you have that capacity to think or have silence, right? Just to think about something else for that short bit of time and then come back because it gives you that little jolt like what you're saying and be able to recharge your batteries so that then you can kind of keep going.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's great. So I know you have a ton of resources. You have created your own courses, which are just amazing to me. I love that you've done that so you can educate people on how we can all live longer, healthier lives and with good care from those that we love without them getting frustrated. So, what types of resources can you just offer to our audience in terms of, places that they can go if they're looking for other care or, resources maybe to see if somebody actually they think is coming down with dementia or Alzheimer's?
Yeah, no, great question. People are always looking for resources. For me, I'm happy to be a resource. So, as you said, I do a lot of teaching and training. So, if any of your listeners are with an organization that needs speakers, I have probably 50 workshops in my catalog and I'm developing new content all the time. So, I'm happy to do that. At Borrow My Glasses, we're hoping to launch into e-learning within the coming year. So, we can check back for that, where things might be available more on demand. But as far as other resources, it's hard, let's see, it's hard to say, or the more specific the situation, the more appropriate I can kind of connect the person with specific resources. Generally speaking, the Alzheimer's Association is a fantastic resource for people who are living with dementia. Even though Alzheimer's is in their name, the Alzheimer's Association, they can help you with any kind of dementia. They have a 24/7 helpline that is available, which you can call anytime, anywhere, and they will kind of give you information at that point or kind of direct you to a chapter near you. So that is a great organization. Other organizations like that are the Alzheimer's Foundation of America. That's another one that kind of, again, has Alzheimer's in their name, but they help with all kinds of Alzheimer's. I mean, all kinds of dementia. Caring Kind is another organization like that. So those are a few of the big ones. I can also say that if someone's living with a specific kind of dementia, some of those have their own foundation. So frontotemporal dementia, for instance, dementia with Lewy body, there's a foundation just for that. Parkinson's, which is related, of course, there's foundations just for that. So
Mm.
people, if you might think about a more specific foundation too, that could be helpful. Um, Many of those organizations offer support groups. I know not everyone's a support group kind of a person, but if you are, that is a great resource for you. And those are the organizations can help you to find support near you. I think the other really good general resource for folks is the Area Agency on Aging Network that exists all over the country. Every county in our country is covered by an area agency on aging. And the way to find the one near you, you could search Area Agency on Aging and a zip code, just Google search and most likely find it. But there's a website called Elder Care Locator, and that's specific to the aging network, and you can search there by zip code or by town. It will tell you the area agency that serves that community, and then contacting them can be helpful. They would be aware of a lot of local resources and service providers, transportation help. They can often help individuals with Title 19 applications, medical insurance questions. They're really a wealth of resources around local needs in a community. So I think those are general ones to talk about. And then if people have more specific needs, for sure there's more specific resources available, but that's a good place for people to start.
Yeah, that's great. There's just a plethora of resources out there that I didn't even know about. So thank you.
Mhm.
This has been fantastic, Donna. Thank you for joining us and sharing some great resources with us and tips for those that are dealing with dementia and also for the caregivers so that we can all live longer, healthier lives and to thrive together, making it to the 100-year mark, right?
That's it. Thank you so much for having me and for all the work you're doing to support women and people in general. I really appreciate knowing about you as a resource as well. And we're all here to help. So there are a lot of resources and there's a lot of assistance available if people look for it. I guess I would just say that as a closing thought, caregivers may tend to isolate themselves and think they're the only one going through something, and that is not the case. So seek help, seek support. We are here for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
And for all of our listeners, of course, please check out our website at limitlessladiesnetwork.com. You can find us on Facebook as well and on Instagram, also on LinkedIn. I also provide some holistic wellness training around specifically for me, sleep, holistic ways to sleep, and stress management with some meditations that are actually helpful for your brain so that you do not get some dementia in there a little bit. It helps to fight some of that and also self-care techniques as well. And then various members of my directory that also will help with meditation, deep breath work, some shamanic healing. So all kinds of great things. So be sure to check out our website and follow us on our social media. Click the button to follow our YouTube channel. And of course, be reminded of any upcoming episodes that we do have and check out also our events where there are several different events happening out throughout August and even into September for some fun ladies' nights out. Thank you.